Hello, this is my the sixth pang-anim na segment of my lecture. So, and let me start by answering the question, who gets the death or disability benefit under the SSS? Truthfully, hindi masyadong chances are these questions on this will not be asked dahil meron kayong Wilson last week, Wilson succession eh. So, but just to cut across, para lang, baka ito yung maging shock and awe, baka ito yung medyo pang visit sa inyo, just to get across, itackle na rin natin. Merong death or disability benefit under the SSS. So, sino ang entitled dyan sa death or disability benefit? So, kung halimbawang may anak, the children must not be over 21 years of age and not gainfully employed. So kung 21 above, hindi na sila entitled dyan sa benefits na yan. Or even if they're less than 21, kung meron na silang trabaho, hindi na rin sila entitled. Now, kung over 21 na sila, if they're special children and they are children over 21 and dependent on the person because of special needs, pwede pa rin silang entitled sa benefit na yan. And last but not the least, of course, yung legitimate spouse. But ang condition is that the legitimate spouse must be living with the individual, with the employee. Kung naghiwalay sila, maski na legitimate spouse siya, hindi na siya entitled sa benefit. Ngayon, kung walang asawa at walang anak, meron tayong secondary benefits. Ang secondary benefits natin yung parents, but the parents must be dependent on the individual for support and yung illegitimate child, hindi pa nababago to eh. Supposedly dapat legitimate and illegitimate. But pag illegitimate child ka lang, you are secondary dependent. Ngayon, what about the death or disability benefits under GSIS? Meron ring primary dependent. Yung asawa, dependent spouse until she remarries, so hindi siya pwedeng magpakasal ulit. And the dependent child, including the illegitimate child, who must be below 21. So note the difference between the SSS and GSIS. Dun sa SSS, yung illegitimate child are secondary dependents, pero sa GSIS, they are still primary dependents. Yan yung secondary dependent naman, kung walang asawa, walang anak, merong dependent parents and merong designated individuals and merong tinatawag na designated individuals. Sa GSIS, pwedeng kung wala kang asawa at wala kang anak, bukod doon sa dependent parents mo, pwedeng gumawa ka ng designated beneficiary. The primary beneficiary in GSIS gets the death and funeral benefits to the exclusion of the secondary beneficiary. Again, let me repeat that in SSS, an illegitimate child is not primary but secondary. So let's go back to what is a undesignated beneficiary. Ang designated beneficiary is only available sa GSIS. Hindi sa SSS, hindi ka pwedeng magkaroon ng designated beneficiary. In GSIS, there can be a designated beneficiary only if there are no primary beneficiaries or parents. O ibig sabihin, walang asawa, walang anak, at walang magulang. So kung dalawa lang kayo, but the conditions is that you must be a common law partner. Dapat girlfriend ka o boyfriend ka and that you're living together and the beneficiary lives survives the individual and depends on him or her for support when he was leaving. So again, let me reiterate that there are no such thing as designated beneficiary under the SSS. Sa ECP, wala rin designated beneficiary. Sa GSIS lang, pag pipirma ka ng form, wala kang asawa, wala kang anak, wala kang magulang, pwede mo sabihin, ito ang designated beneficiary ko, yung iyong common law partner. Again, hindi pwedeng stranger, dapat meron kayong common law relationship. Now, what about pension? Sa ECP, there is no such thing as pension. Magkakaroon lang ng pension sa SSS and GSIS. So when is there a pension? Sa SSS, magkakaroon ka ng pension if you have at least 120 months of contribution and you have reached the age of 60 at ikaw ay nag-compulsory retirement or 65, nagkaroon ka ng mandatory requirement. Ganon rin yan sa GSIS. So, nagkakaroon ka ng pension, 120 months of contribution, and nagkakaroon ka ng pension kung 60 or 65 ka na, depending kung compulsory or hindi, yung voluntary retirement or compulsory retirement ang ginawa mo. Ngayon, kung namatay yung nagpe-pension, di ba? Ikaw yung empleyado, SSS, o ikaw yung empleyado, GSIS, namatay ka na, meron bang survivorship? Pwede bang yung asawa mo o yung anak mo magso-survive do sa pensions na tinatanggap mo sa SSS or sa GSIS? For SSS and GSIS, there is survivorship only for the primary beneficiaries, not for the secondary beneficiaries. So, sino nga yung primary? Sinabi natin, anak at saka asawa. But yung pension, nagso-survive lang yan dun sa mga anak until they reach the age of 21, or even if they're not yet 21, kung hindi na sila dependent. Oo, ibig sabihin meron na silang trabaho kung they can already stand on their own. So, kung ikaw yung anak na nagki-claim pa ng pension at hindi ka pa over 21 at meron ka trabaho, wag mo i-declare na meron ka ng trabaho. Can the pension of the survivor be stopped? For pensions, the spouse must not remarry. In fact, ang bago ata ngayon, hindi lang remarry. Huwag kang magkakaroon ng common law relationship. Pag nalaman ng SSS or GSIS na meron kang common law relationship, the pension will stop. And children naman, will it stop na? Mention ko na, the children must not be gainfully employed and must not be over 21. Now, sabi natin, dapat ang isang individual magkakaroon lang ng pension kung 65 years na siya. What about kung halimbawang pumasok siya doon sa trabaho niya, either in SSS o hindi, o sa GSIS na wala pa siyang 15 years of service. Sa SSS, yung pension mo, dapat talaga nagkaroon ka ng 15 sa GSIS, dapat talaga nagkaroon ka ng 15 years of service. So, kung halimbawang pumasok ka sa GSIS as a government employee, hindi ka pa nakaka-reach ng 15 years of service at nag-65 ka na, ano mangyayari? Say, if the individual is already 65, but he has only 14 years of service. So, in the case of Rabor, ang sabi ng Rabor case, sabi ng Supreme Court, a person 64 years old who has only 1 year of service cannot demand extension for 14 years, for this is absurd. So, ang sinasabi ng Gabor case, kung halimbawang ilang taon na lang naman at magkakaroon ka na ng yung tinatawag na tenure of 15 years. So, kaya nga lang, 65 ka na, yung compassionate justice will dictate na dapat pakumpleto sa'yo yung 15 years of service. Even mag-exceed ka na doon sa 65. So dito yung naririnig natin na, o bakit 65 years old na, 66 years old na yan, bakit nagtatrabaho pa? Dapat akala ba natin, di ba ang sabi, at 65 dapat mandatory or compulsory na yung kanyang retirement. Well, ito nga yung sitwasyon na dahil kulang pa siya dun sa 15 years of service, the law allows extension. But in the Gabor case, hindi naman pwedeng absorb yung extension. Kung halimbawang 65 years old na siya, pero nakakaisang taon pa lang siya sa gobyerno, pwede bang magkaroon siya ng extension ng 14 years? Hindi pwede. Sabi sa Gabor case, this is absurd. Magkakaroon lang ng extension of retirement at least kung minimal na lang yung retirement, yung security of tenure o yung period of employment that is required para maka 15 years siya. At any rate, sabi sa Gabor case, it will be at the discretion of the head of the agency. So, what is the magic word? The basic considerations on pension? Ano yung pwede niyong gamitin sa pagsagot ng mga tanong tungkol sa pension? Ito yung palagi yung sinasabi ng Korte Suprema. Ano yung mga considerations on pensions? Pension laws are liberally construed in favor of the pensioner. So ano ibig sabihin yan? Again, compassionate justice, granted principle. Kung konti lang naman yung requirement na kulang, the pension laws must be liberally construed. Ang purpose or ang consideration is that it will achieve the humanitarian purpose of the law. Number one, to achieve the humanitarian purpose of the law, and in order that efficiency, security, and well-being of the employee be enhanced. Kaya rin nagkakaroon ng pension is that para puwersahin yung empleyadong maging efficient, puwersahin siyang maging loyal, puwersahin siyang pagalingin pa yung kanyang pagtatrabaho kasi magkakaroon ng risk na baka matanggalan siya ng pensyon. So, I have one case na yung kliyente ko, pinamana niya na yung kanyang kumpanya dun sa anak niya, but yung anak niya kagagraduate lang, medyo wala pang alam, hindi inirerespeto ng mga matatandang empleyado. Kasi syempre, sila matagal na sila doon, nagsimula sila nung bata pa sila nung dating may-ari. Ngayon yung anak ang nag-subsume, nag-absorb ng kumpanya, di nila masyadong nire-respeto. Kaya nung nag-meeting kami, sinabihan ko sa kanila, sabi ko, sige, pag loko-loko kayo, hindi kayo makakakuha ng retirement. Because, again, the purpose of the pension is so that it will instill efficiency. Magkaroon ng loyalty on the part of the employee kasi kung alam nila na pag hindi nila pinag-igi yung kanilang trabaho, pwede silang tanggalan ng pension or pwede silang hindi bigyan ng pension. Ngayon, let's wrap this up. Sorry, medyo minamalat ako. Ewan ko ba. Maybe I need to drink water. Again, yung prescriptive period for ECP, it prescribes in 3 years. For SSS, sabi natin, 20 years. Kung GSIS, it prescribes in 4 years. So, kailangan, kung meron kang GSIS claims, i-claim mo na within the 4-year period. Diniscuss ko lang to just to cut across kasi ang hirap i-discuss ng SSS saka ECP nang hindi kasama ang GSIS. But as I have already told you, ang chances na magkaroon tayo ng questions sa GSIS is medyo remote dahil part yan ng admin law, hindi yan part ng labor law. Let's go to Republic Act 11-210, otherwise known as the Extended Maternity Leave. What is the requisite for extended maternity leave? Sabi natin, 3 months contribution within the 12 months of pregnancy. So, if the employee delivered December 2020 or 2020, that contributions must have been made January 2020. If the contributions were made in 2019, then she does not get an extended maternity leave. So, anong taon nga nag-start itong extended maternity leave? Kasi dati maternity leave lang eh. Ngayon naging extended maternity leave. It covers birth after March 8, 2019. Again, March 8, 2019 is the coverage of the extended. Ngayon, tinanggal yung empleyado. If the employee is terminated, can she still avail of this EML or extended maternity leave? Sagot, yes, provided that she avails of the extended maternity leave not more than 15 days after her service is terminated. The law does not qualify if it is legal or illegal termination. So, tinanggal ka whether you were dismissed legally or illegally, as long as you petition or you claim for this EML within 15 days after your termination, available rin yan. So, hindi lahat ng empleyado, hindi lahat ng individual kailangan empleyado. Masking tanggal na sila within the 15-day period, pwede silang mag-apply, mag-avail ng EML. Now, pinag-uusapan natin kung tinanggal, whether legal or illegal yung dismissal. Legal yung dismissal. Gumawa ng kalokohan, di ba? Nagkaroon ng pagnanakaw o ano man, malubhang kalokohan ang ginawa sa kumpanya. So, nagkaroon ng due process, at dahil may just cause, tinanggal siya. And legal yung dismissal, pwede pa rin mag-avail ng EML as long as within the 15-day period. Kung ang empleyado naman ay hindi tinanggal, kung hindi nag-resign, entitled pa rin ba siya ng extended maternity leave kung nag-resign siya? Well, yung batas medyo silent. Pero sa akin, i-apply natin yung liberal interpretation. Kung yung ang tinanggal legally or illegally, diba, ay entitled ng EML, siguro naman dapat nating i-interpret yung batas na kung nag-resign siya, lalo na siyang entitled. So, ano na nga ngayon yung bagong dami? How many is the EML? Dati kasi merong cesarean o hindi cesarean. Ngayon, meron ng normal or cesarean delivery, it does not matter anymore. Ang EML ngayon is 105 days. Now, 105 days, medyo mahaba na rin yun, di ba? Almost 3 months, 3 months o 3 months. Almost 3 months. 3 months yan. Can it be extended? Pwedeng i-extend yan 30 days extension, but without pay. Kung talagang hindi mo pa kayang pumasok, o tingin mo dapat pala alagaan yung anak mo, pwede mo pang i-extend yung leave mo but without pay, provided that there is notice to the employer 45 days before the leave ends. Unless, of course, yung reason mo kung bakit ka nag-extend ay medical emergency. So, yung 45 days na threshold, yung 45 days na deadline, pwede nang tanggalin yon. But kung hindi medical emergency, gusto mo pang dagdagan yung iyong leave, yung 105 days, okay lang. So 105 plus 30 days, that will become 135 days. Pero ang bayad lang doon, yung 105 days. Ngayon kung halimbawang ikaw ay solo parent, solo mother ka, madadagdagan ba yung leave mo na 105? Well, under the solo parents law, i-discuss natin, yung solo parent or solo mothers gets an extra 15 days. So making the leave not only 105, making it 120 days kung solo parents ka. 120 days. That's almost 5 months. Ngayon, under the former law, merong pregnancy limit. Ngayon, dati, kailangan hanggang 4 na beses lang. Under the extended maternity leave law, unlimited na yan. Bottomless na yan. Kahit ilang beses ka mabuntis, you can avail of the extended maternity leave. Unlike before, under the old law, 4 na beses ka lang dapat mabuntis, yung pang-5 mo, hindi ka na, you cannot already avail of the EML. May mga kumpanya ba, may mga establishment ba na exempted? Ito, yung mga, yung the usual exemption, yung distress establishment, yung nalulugi. But of course, kailangan yung pagkalugi ng establishmento, hindi paid, hindi paid, at saka hindi de minimis. Anong ibig sabihin ng de minimis? Kasi minsan, ang kumpanya naman talaga, merong time na nalulugi, merong time namang kumikita, di ba? Ibig sabihin talagang dire-diretso yung pagkalugi niya. So, yan, nade-determine niya ng isang accountant na for several months or several years talagang nalulugi at kung itutuloy pa yung pag-ooperate, pagbubukas ng kumpanya, is mas lalala yung pagkalugi. If the establishment is a distress establishment and bona fide yung pagiging distress niya and is tawag dyan, hindi yung nag-peak lang yung kanyang pagiging distressed o pwede siyang maging exempted sa EML. Another kind of employer or another kind of company that is exempted from EML, yung companies that are employing 10 employees or less. So, 10 employees or less, pwede silang exempted. But mind you, hindi to automatic. Automatic in the sense na ang daming kasing mga kumpanya, hindi kami magbibigay ng EML. Bakit? Kasi maliit lang kami. Dapat yan ipapa-approve mo sa Department of Labor. Merong form doon. Sasabihin mo sa Department of Labor, mag-a-avail ka ng exception. At check upin nila kung totoo nga na maliit lang yung kumpanya mo na 10 employees or less. Ganun din, kung halimbawang ang isang maliit na kumpanya ka and yung capitalization mo is less than 3 million pesos. But again, just like yung companies with less than or with 10 employees or less, ganun rin, kailangan yan ipapa-approve mo sa department. Actually, hindi naman approval sa Department of Labor kung hindi i-register mo yung iyong availment ng exemption. Merong form na pinipill upan doon and then the Department of Labor will be put on notice na maliit na kumpanya ka lang and they will have the opportunity to validate or to verify kung totoong maliit na kumpanya ka lang in the sense na kokonti yung tao mo or maliit yung iyong capitalization. And last but not the least, yung mga kumpanya na nagbibigay na ng maternity leave. Kung ikaw ay nagbibigay na ng maternity leave, hindi ka na of the equivalent number, hindi ka na compelled by law na apart from the maternity leave that you're giving your employee, magbibigay ka pa ng 105. So hindi minention doon sa batas kung halimbawa assuming nagbibigay ka ng maternity leave na 10 o 20, ileles ba yun doon sa 105? O yun, I would say na kung nagbibigay ka ng less than 105, 105 pa rin yung maternity leave. Kung more than yung maternity leave na binibigay mo, more than 105, yun ang mag-govern. Kasi lahat ng batas ay dapat yun ang binding, and any company policy that tends to thwart what is provided by law, hindi magpe-prevail. Magpe-prevail lang yan kung yung company policy is nagbibigay ng benefit na mas mataas dun sa batas. Ngayon, kung merong miscarriage, 105 days pa rin ba yung extended maternity leave? No, ang extended maternity leave kasi hindi lang naman para dun sa nanay, para rin yan dun sa anak. So kaya yan 105. In case there is this miscarriage, hindi natuloy yung pagpapaanak, yung maternity yung leave niya, hindi yan 105 kung hindi nagiging 60 days na lang. So hindi na yan maternity leave, miscarriage leave na yan dahil siguro maternity, nanganak ka. So kung yung panibagong feature sa EML, yung transferred EML, anong ibig sabihin ng transferred EML? So, ano yun? Meron kasing provision sa extended maternity leave law na yung 7 days nung maternity leave nung nanay, pwede niyang i-transfer do sa kanyang husband or caregiver. So, yung husband, meron naman siyang paternity leave, di ba? Meron. Di-discuss natin later on. Pero kung halimbawa ang gustong gawin ng wife, kumuha dun sa 105 days niya, yung 7 days doon, ibabato niya sa husband. Yun yung tinatawag na transferred extended maternity leave. So the husband can get 7 days paternity leave under the paternity leave law, and 7 days transferred extended maternity leave. In case of that transfer, the 7 days is deducted from the EML. So kung 105 yung sa asawa, magiging 98 na lang kasi mababawasan ng 7 days. Ngayon, yung sa wife, but yung sa husband naman, magiging 14 days yung kanyang maternity leave, yung kanyang leave, 7 days for the paternity leave and 7 days for the extended maternity leave at transferred maternity leave. Now, ngayon kung walang asawa, walang husband, pwede bang yung transferred extended maternity leave, it can be given to the caregiver? Under the law, pwede. When the father is dead, absent, or incapacitated, pwedeng magkaroon ng transferred maternity leave in favor of a caregiver. So I've consumed my 29 minutes. So I'll be back.